If you told me that my journey to the shores of gold would have me stumble upon the most heart-wrenching story in Sea of Thieves, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So far, we've been on what I would consider to be a fairly classic pirate adventure. We sailed the seas, we explored hidden tombs to find treasure, and defeated the vicious Captain Briggsy to steal her memories. Memories which we would need to find the Infinity Stones. With the Shroud Breaker assembled, it was time to put some magic into that bad boy. We're not gonna get to the shores of gold on goodwill alone, so our next course of action was to meet with yet another person whose name we siphoned out of Briggsy's head. One of these is gonna be a lot more saddening than the other, so what about we start with the happy one first? Though I would lie if I said that I felt happy having to sail through the dang storm in order to get there. Our first destination was the North Star Sea Post, home of a fella named SADDEST. But unfortunately, the journey over to him already presented some challenges. Oh, you're joking. In a storm, rare, please.
Oh, what a great start.
We gotta get to the sea post. Fighting a fleet was definitely not how I wanted to start my day. Of course, Rare does not care about my comfort, so getting pummeled from every direction while in a storm with Brandon spawning on my ship naked just to get one shot was how our adventure began. I don't know why all of my Tall Tale sessions begin with us having to get dunked on by world events, and that's before we even started the Tall Tale. But we eventually arrived at the sea post to officially begin Stars of a Thief. Are you ready for this? No more chasing down skeletons. For this one, we're going to use the stars to guide us towards the first Infinity Stone. The good news is that with the stars in the sky and the book in our hands, we already have everything we need to get the job done. The bad news is that this was a bold-faced lie. As much as we got a pointer in the right direction, Suds did not want to part with his magical spyglass, which we need to do any of the aforementioned reading of stars. I guess he's kind of justified in that. We are pirates after all. We would use Briggsy's, but unfortunately hers was already broken and we kind of turned that into a compass to find and assassinate her. The only solution was to find another spyglass that was A, enchanted, and B, not broken. But selfish as Suds is, he did give us a hint as to where we could find one, and much to my surprise... Oh, Twin Rose is right next to us. That's very convenient, actually. A Tall Tale that doesn't have us traverse the entire map just to pick up a MacGuffin? Sign me the heck up! Contrary to my expectations, finding the chest on Twin Groves was actually no issue, with it only being protected by one measly skelly captain. But getting the spyglass was only one part of the equation. The real challenge was not getting our hands on it, but knowing how to use it.
I see one. I see a fire pit.
This is a shark.
I see an arrow. Which one are we looking for?
I don't know what we're looking for. So here's the thing about these Tall Tales. Most of them have different combinations of puzzles, so that every time you do them, they end up feeling at least a tiny bit different. For Stars of a Thief in particular, there were pages upon pages of solutions on Rare Thief, and just looking at that page made me go, yeah, no, I'm not reading any of that. If I have to read a bunch of text anyway, I might as well read the actual book. And eventually, we found out that the story within speaks of an eagle, prompting us to sail in the direction of the Eagle constellation. Ignore the part where it literally gives us the name of the island. But the trick is that, in the story, it talks about how the eagle never landed on that island. In actuality, we had to go to a neighboring island off of Lonely Isle, which gave us our final destination, Lone Cove. From there on out, all we had to do was align the eagle with the rock so that it looks like the picture in the book, and once we dug at the spot where that was the case... Oh!
Wow.
Oh, is that already it? Is that what we need? No, that's... Oh,
hey,
no, it's not.
Tall Tale over. Video's
No.
done. Let's go home.
Listen, unfortunately, I know that this is not it. They always make me think I'm already done, but it's actually just the beginning. Now, you would be forgiven to believe, since we are looking for magical gems, that this is one of the fabled Infinity Stones, but that will be too easy. It took me a second to realize, but obviously this gem is too big to fit into the Shroud Breaker. It is actually one out of 2 gems that we need to get access to the gem that does fit into the Shroud Breaker. You picking up what I'm putting down? Basically, we had to repeat the whole process all over again to get access to the second gem hidden away at a different island, at which point we would finally be ready to get our hands on the Infinity Stone. After a prerequisite amount of sailing, of course. Our final destination was an unmarked island that, while having sailed past it many times, I never suspected of holding any relevance. Diving beneath the waves, we found a secret passage leading to a cave. One thing I love about these Tall Tales is that even though I've played this game for a while, it keeps bringing me to locations that I didn't even know existed, and that's pretty cool. But there was no time for sightseeing. We slotted the gems into the statue, expecting it to spit out the Infinity Stone in return, but what we ended up getting definitely was not that. Ooh, what's this?
Crab totem.
No, not again. Why?
Go next.
God, why? Why do you make me do this again, Rare? Yeah, excuse my mental breakdown here for a second, but my brain was still processing the puzzle that I had to do last week. The good news is that the crab totem corresponded to the vault on the very island we were already on, so no sailing for us. Having learned from my mistake, Brandon and I took our time to decipher the puzzle before triggering the trap, by which I mean this is definitely where we had to use Google, because failing this part means you have to start over again. In my defense, we did try to do it on our own, but since Brandon and I share the same brain cell, we couldn't really make a heck of a lot of sense of it. But if you thought that made completing it any less exciting, then you'd be sorely mistaken. Okay, this is the first Infinity Stone. Let's go!
Heck yeah. Is this the Power Stone?
I hope so. I feel more powerful holding it. It finally felt like we began making real progress towards the shores of gold. We were so excited that even having to sail into the Skelly fleet did not take away from it. Also, let me just point out the irony of Suds refusing to lend us a spyglass, but us absolutely having to leave the Infinity Stone in his possession. But whatever, with a spring in our step and wind in our sails, we had worked up the momentum to continue on our journey and complete the next tall tale. Sanctuary Outpost was our destination, where we had to talk to a lady named Olive, not to be confused with Madame Olivia, who made out with Briggsy's skull. Actually, the names were those of Wild Rose and her fiancé George, but they're pirates, so they have better things to do than sit at an outpost all day. Olive is a friend of the two, meaning she's our best shot at getting an idea where they are, and oh no, she is also from the Order of Souls, and they don't usually deal with people of the living variety. Okay, let's not jump to conclusions. I'm sure that Rose and George are completely fine, and we can just ask them about the Infinity Stone. All we have to do is repeat the process by which we found Briggsy, get our hands on some of their belongings, and turn it into a magical compass. And while the first item was easily found, the book that Olive gave us was so full of what felt like random fluff that it was a bit difficult to discern what was actually important. Sometimes they mention islands that they like pass by in these stories.
No, this one specifically says we went to Sailor's Bounty and we picked up George.
Okay, but then that's not relevant, right? Because we're looking for items they left behind.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought we were just attending all of the islands.
Yeah, that one brain cell was coming in clutch. But before you give Brandon a hard time, it's not like I was without fault myself, because being the idiot that I am, I brought us to Lone Cove when our actual destination was Cannon Cove. Easy mistake to make. Arriving at Cannon Cove and gracefully ignoring the Ashen Winds event currently taking place on this island, we could finally strike gold and find another item belonging to the two lovebirds. Did you know that they were just about to get married before they went missing? The entire book that Olive gave us was full of lovely tales about how they met and grew together, making me dread the possibility of them not being alright. Our collectathon ended on Smuggler's Bay, where a lot of digging was necessary to locate the final item which we would need to craft the enchanted compass. Eatus, skeetus. Ow! Alright, back to the outpost. We got all we need. Oh.
We're both looking.
This is hurting. With a heavy sigh, we went back to Sanctuary Outpost to deliver the items we found. The compass that Olive crafted served its purpose and brought us to our destined location, it being Crescent Isle. But it didn't take long for me to realize that we were too late. I could spot a glint from afar already and knew what it meant. Rose was dead, and unlike us, she could not just come back from the Ferry of the Damned, because as it turned out, somebody was holding her soul captive. A fate worse than death. George and Rose were torn apart in life and kept separated even beyond the veil. I knew that we couldn't right this wrong, but the least we could do was delivering justice. So we sailed. We sailed as far as we had to in order to fulfill our mission. And at last, the compass led us to where George was being held captive at the center of Sharkbait Cove. But little did I know that he was not alone. Captain Rook was his captor, greed and selfishness reeking out of every fiber of her being. I listened from afar, how she killed Rose and George alike, how she sacrificed her own mortality so that a certain Captain Greymarrow would bestow upon her the secrets of how to capture souls. But none of that mattered to me. All that mattered was getting her scrawny skeleton fingers out the pendant so that I could reunite George and Rose. And I think we all know how this fight ended. The victors write the history books, and with the final swing of my cutlass, this page was written.
He's mine.
I know that we were sent to find George and Rose so they can help us locate the next Infinity Stone, but more than anything, this tall tale just felt like doing the right thing. The two of them ended up reunited in the afterlife. Captain Rook would no longer be able to torment them, and we were free to move on to the next tall tale on our way to the shores of gold. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and definitely ring that bell icon to not miss out on my next upload. I hope you guys have a day filled with the tallest tales on the seas, and until next time, peace!